What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Guys, we got an interesting one here. Question asked on TikTok. Americans who moved abroad, what are the things you no longer fear? Um, Definitely find this interesting, especially as somebody that's never been outside of my country and plan on going to another country to visit and stuff. It's definitely some fears there. A lot of sometimes you can overthink the situation, don't? Because I don't know how it's gonna be. I don't know how the experience is gonna be. Experience are different for everybody. I see a lot of great things, so that's what I expect. That's what I hope for. But definitely interesting to see some things you no longer fear. Making a big move like that, it can be fearful. Leaving what you know to learn something new and dive into some new cultures and different things like that. But we finna see, because all that I just said, I could be wrong what this video talking about. You know what I'm
If you're
saying?
an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear?
Oh, this is fun. Okay, in the last 10 years, I've lived in 3 different countries that aren't America. And the first thing would definitely be healthcare. I found myself in the hospital maybe several times. Anesthesia, stitches, IV fluids, IV meds, whatever. Never paid more than $50. Never. Let's see, walking alone as a girl at night. Never had to worry about like someone jumping me or shooting me or
Oh,
whatever out of nowhere. Never had a weapon on me.
dang.
Nothing.
Okay, so this kind of like all those other videos I seen. Maybe what you're talking about when you're talking about fears. You know, some things we fear in America versus living abroad.
Now I always carry a weapon. Never walk alone. Well, I try not to walk alone. Just wouldn't really do it here now. Calling in sick. You can call in sick in other countries, and your boss isn't going to make you feel like a terrible person and like you're just the worst person on the planet for missing a day of your job where they're working you to death and probably not
Yeah,
paying you
do it
enough.
too.
And yeah, ugh.
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear? Because living in
The things that I no longer feared when I moved out the country. I no longer feared the police in any capacity. There was police in Jamaica that had assault rifles as their normal weapon, and I
Dang.
still felt comfort and ease around them. I no longer felt outnumbered in, well, any situation, because
Wow.
quite literally, everyone around me was black. I no longer felt the fear of exploring like how you feel here, because when I go places, I love to explore and go through neighborhoods and see things and stuff like that. In America, you end up in the wrong neighborhood, that could be a death sentence. But when I was
That's
out
a
of the country
fact.
in Jamaica, I could explore any neighborhood, anywhere, and nobody be asking crazy questions like who you, where you belong, this, that, and the third.
They
I
be
no
doing
longer
that.
feared the end of the month and my cost of living. Because in
Mm.
Jamaica, I end up paying about $300 in bills a month versus here where I'm paying over 5 grand sometimes.
What? I need to see these living standards in Jamaica. Then he said 5 grand. What you? He must live in New York. Gosh.
I never feared the people that, somebody could be having a bad day and then that be it for me, my life, and my daughter.
On
Instead, the
everything.
people were nice and friendly and
That's a
this, that, and
good
the
thing.
third. I never feared expressing myself and who I was. I actually trained
That's it.
drastically more when I was there because I felt less judged. I never feared for my life. I never feared for my
I
well-being.
was like,
I
what
never
was that
feared
sound?
losing my life to gun violence. I never feared anything like that. And yes, I'm aware that countries have their own problems. And yes, Jamaica
Yeah.
has a few. But none of them concern me too much because none of them happened to me. You don't understand how many things you really fear or how many things you actually have become accustomed to or fearing until you leave.
That's true.
Because I have never felt more at ease. I've never felt more peaceful. You know how many times I fell asleep with my door wide open and nothing happened except maybe a crab broke in? You know how many times I would just be out walking around, no
Oh,
weapon on
yeah,
me
so that
whatsoever,
crap.
run into a group of people and be like, oh, hey, what's up, what's up? No need for social anxiety or nothing. It was freeing.
That's good.
It was peaceful, and it's home to me.
It's crazy because, like, I know this. If y'all been watching, or if you're a basketball fan, I feel like that's the same here. Like recently, Dwight Howard went overseas to play basketball, and he was just talking about all the love, how much free, really probably the mental freeness, just being. I forgot what league he's in. I believe he's in Taiwan. No, he's not in Taiwan. He's somewhere in Asia, I believe. Then Stephen Marbury, whatever his name, he actually left the NBA and went to China, and he was talking about how much it like helped him mentally, because America is just oversaturated, like mentally, like people just nag at you, and it's crazy because the NBA allowed this. Like you got reporters and people like they asking questions outside of basketball, like what is this? Like this became like it's not even about sports no more. Like that's America. It's
Jamaica
crazy.
is always feeling like home to me.
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear? Because living in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, the Americans I've spoken to here, they all have the same stories about how they saw a fight break out across the room when they were out at a pub or something like that, and they realized they no longer fear that it could escalate into gunshots. When they all have stories about fireworks and realizing the day they realize that there are always fireworks now. They realize that they've been through an entire year and not had to worry about taxes because taxes are just calculated for you. And they don't fear that they could get those wrong. They got ill and went to the hospital, and they realized they don't fear what it could cost anymore.
Yeah.
They had an interaction with the police and they weren't afraid. They requested time off from their boss, and their boss was just wondering why they made a big deal out of it. And they just said, book it in the system because they get 4, 5, 6 paid weeks off now, and it's no longer an issue.
Wow.
There's loads of things. So tell me your stories. If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear?
I'm an American living abroad in Australia, Central Coast, New South Wales.
Australia.
I've been here for about 2 months. Everything this guy says is 100% accurate. I was on a train from Melbourne to Sydney yesterday. 2 people got into a full-on fight. Cops were called. It happened right next to me, and not once did I think that it might escalate to gunshots. You know why? Because no one has a fucking gun here, bro. It's that simple. Like, you don't feel as scared, bro. There's a lot less intensity in these
Everybody using these. You win some, you lose some, but you live to see another day.
social situations, especially with cops. Like, I'm not scared of cops, bro. I'm not even in the US because I personally have nothing to hide. But you're not worried about that type of stuff here.
That's true.
Because I know for a fact that Aussie police are not going to think that I may have a gun. It's like 99.9% of people here do not have guns, and you just feel a lot safer with everything you go. Even in the worst parts of this country, you're going to feel a lot safer because you know that no one's going to rob you at fucking gunpoint. And it's just how it is.
You can fight back with knife
If you're an
point.
American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear?
Walking around alone at night. I'm an American and I live in Copenhagen, Denmark. The first time I came here, I was studying abroad, so I was like 19 or 20. And I remember walking home from a bar by myself at like 3:30 in the morning and realizing I felt so safe. I didn't like have my phone out ready to call 911 or 112. Didn't have my keys out ready for self-defense if I needed it. I was just walking and I wasn't worried. And I've never not been worried when I've been walking alone by myself at night in the US. And I think that was one of the moments where I was like, I would really like to live here. And now I do. And honestly, I've never felt unsafe at night.
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things
Denmark.
you've realized that you no longer fear?
Denmark is one of the safest places. It's like top 5.
So I don't live
Top
abroad, I
3
live in the
probably.
States. But one of the neatest things happened to me when I was in Iceland a couple years ago. At the second
Iceland.
Airbnb that I stayed at, I wanted to do just some day hiking because I was exhausted from a very long day that ended in climbing a volcano in the middle of the night before.
Dang.
So I asked the Airbnb host, I'm like, so where can I walk? He goes, anywhere. And I said, yeah, but at what point will I be trespassing? When do I cross property lines? Are there landmarks that I need to keep in mind? And he smiled and he said, we don't have that here. You can walk anywhere.
Wow.
And I was like, what, no Bubba with a shotgun gonna come out and tell me to get off his land? And he kind of laughed. They just don't do that there. Life was fearless.
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear?
Listen, when I live in Germany, the amount of like, maybe it was just Bonn, but even Berlin, okay, basically, I would be, you know, goofed out of my mind. It would be 1:45 in the morning. I'd be taking a public transportation bus home by myself because I lived alone. Well, with my host family, but like no roommates. And then I would walk the 10 minutes to my house from the bus station in the middle of the night. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm cool. Let me listen to a podcast. One time I fell asleep on the bus. Like I said, and I woke up and I was like 20 minutes away from my stop. And I was like, well, that's not good. So I just got off and walked the 20-minute walk.
Dang.
I also had a very, very loud alarm.
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear?
She an interesting storyteller.
I'm not afraid of the outside. And I know that sounds stupid, but as an American that has just relocated to the UK, I'm sat outside in my garden. It's a little chilly, but it's not bad because I'm from the north in fucking America, so.
Definitely cold.
You know, it's a little chilly, but it's quiet. There's no
quiet.
Yelling, screaming, bottles smashing. I'm not afraid my neighbors are going to try to unalive me. I'm not afraid that they're going to steal anything. Like, it's completely normal if you are not here to pick up a package that you ordered for the post to literally drop it off at a neighbor's house, and they will just keep it for you. When people walk here, I'm significantly less afraid of being hit by a car, or getting lost. Like,
dang.
I mean, the only thing left to be afraid of here is ghosts because it's ancient as heck here, but like, I'm not even afraid of ghosts. So this has all been very novel. It's nice and quiet. I'm
requested time off from their boss, and their boss was just wondering why they made a big deal out of it, and they just said,
that video is so good at pointing out all of the things that we live in fear of in the US.
This is so true.
And the one in particular that gets me is the idea that I have to fear losing my job every time I have to call out of work.
I'm telling you, I started doing the bare minimum and, doing just enough to not get in trouble type thing. Because I'm like, these jobs only care about one thing. I read a book called The Goal. The goal is to make money. If you're not producing, they finna just go find somebody else. Especially certain companies, like, that's why they don't mind kicking you to the curb, because they know they just got 20 applications. They got 20 applications. They know most of these people really need a job type thing. They kick you off, bring somebody else in.
And like, I have a part-time
job
that I can only work part-time because I am also a full-time mom. But I'm so scared of losing my job. And it's been so clear to me, like, the fear is ever present this past week because I've had to call out of so many shifts. Ooh. And I'm just like, I keep over explaining in every email whenever I have to call out because I'm like, I have RSV and I don't want to get anybody else sick. I don't want to get anybody else with young kids sick.
They don't be caring. You sick, they will still say come. That's crazy. But
I'm so afraid of losing this job because, like, I really need it. And I don't have paid sick time or anything. So, like...
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things you've realized that you no longer fear?
American here. I've lived abroad for 14 years. 4 years in Switzerland, 9 years now in England. I feel like he made this video because of a comment that I made on one of his videos the other day. I was on a night out in Birmingham the other day, and I heard fireworks going off in the street. It wasn't bonfire night, but... I know you guys have leftover fireworks after bonfire night, and for like a couple weeks after, you just shoot them off for random times just for fun in the street. But the first thing that came to my mind was shooting. There's a shooting. And I had like massive panic come on. And my friend that I was out with saw it in my face, and he goes, hey, it's cool. You're not in America anymore. Those are fireworks, not a shootout. So the fact that I don't have to worry about random massive shootings, that's a nice thing now.
If you're an American that has moved abroad, what are the things?
That's why it's crazy. It got so bad in America, you really can't go nowhere. When I saw them, when the school shootings started becoming more, people start shooting in the church. Like at all place, people start shooting in the church too. The stores, like it ain't safe nowhere. Playgrounds.
Things you've realized that you no longer fear.
So I'm an American currently living in Canada. And everything that this original poster already like mentioned are things that I would have said. So I don't have anything to add in that regard, but what I sort of will contribute is that about 6 months into me living here, I've lived here for a year. It'll be a year next month. About 6 months into living here, I all of a sudden felt this extreme wave of emotion and like physical release in what almost felt like, as somebody with an anxiety disorder, it almost felt like I was coming down from an anxiety attack out of absolutely nowhere. Like everything was going completely fine in my life. Nothing had happened and I couldn't figure out where this huge release was coming from.
No stress.
And I did a lot of reflecting on it and I realized that it was my body finally beginning to release the trauma of having lived in the United States for 23 years. Like, my body actually began to physically process just the daily lived trauma of being from the United States and having just lived in Canada for 6 months, not gone through anything extraordinary here, just taking myself out of the environment of being in the United States was this huge trauma release for my body. Like, it was the first time that my body actually felt safe somewhere. So that was really, really fun to go through, and to realize that
she seemed happier.
That is what I've put myself through for 22 years. I'm really curious if any other Americans living abroad have gone through that same thing.
What's the most inappropriate thing a therapist?
Nah, that's real though. That's real. I definitely. We all know stress. Stress is a real thing. Stress is very real, and this is a stressful country. You know, all in all, like, of course, if you're making good money and stuff, you're gonna love being anywhere. Like, if you got the money for it, you're gonna love it. But just think of the people that are actually in their reality and really trying to make ends meet day to day. That's very stressful. I seen somebody, I think it was on TikTok too. This one guy was like, hey, how about we do a show where, millionaires actually be put in a position of, a regular day-to-day person who's trying to find food every day, for their family, who's working at minimum wage job and, trying to take off but can't and have to work and overworked and let's try and put them in a reality. Cause some people will say, get over it. Oh, work harder and all that. It's not even about that really. It's not, of course you can work hard, you can work smart. They're key things, but it's not, oh, let me work harder, put my body through stress so I can get more. When there's people literally walking in, scratching off a lottery ticket and becoming a millionaire. It lets you know life is not like what could happen. You just never know what could happen. People's life change just getting a quarter and scratching off a $10 ticket. Like, it's crazy how much stress life brings. Because what's most people's problem down here? Money. There's money. Because you got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. You got to pay for this. You got to pay for that. Versus like living in Europe, Australia. Your taxes is already taken out. You're paying a high tax. That's because it's already everything going to be taken care of for you. It's going towards something. Here in America, we think, oh, our taxes are lower. But every time we go to a store, we spend it. And they're adding a tax. Every time we paying rent or mortgage, they're adding a tax. So it equivalates, it ends up being more than what other people pay in other countries. Because then you got to add on that, dang, if I get hurt or something, I got to pay for insurance. Which insurance is taxing me every month as well. So everything is getting taxed. We can look at, oh, it's only 25%, this percent, but everything coming out of pocket, still getting taxed. But there's some real stuff. I felt the lady at the end. I really felt that because, man, some things can be very, very stressful, and you can honestly feel the stress and that weight of stress come off of you. You can feel it. It's a real thing. I feel like I experienced that before. You can feel it come on you and you can feel it come off of you. So it's one of those things. That's a real thing, man. But that's why I'm definitely ready to at least start visiting different places and stuff and just see the differences for myself as well, because I lived here long enough. I felt the stress and I felt the goods that come out of this country, but after looking at other countries and stuff, it's like, dang, why can't we have that? But we have a greedy country, if we being real, not all America is bad, but you can't say it's some things that they could do better, for the people, to help people, especially people that are living that day-to-day life and living paycheck to paycheck, different. Like there's people that's working very, very hard, still living paycheck to paycheck. So, but that's all I have. Yeah, like I said, it's still a fear making that big change, big jump. I'm sure they fear, but all those fears left when the fears that they had in America don't exist in other countries. So, always interesting to hear. That's all I have. Y'all hit that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. Y'all be blessed, be the best, and be you. I'm out.